This dude is serious, Dolidze. He's this knockout guy, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and we haven't really seen him hone in on one or the other. It's always a mixed bag. What makes this fight different? Why is this fight happening?
Besides a couple years off and a couple different fights for Dolidze to find himself able to grow, honestly, not much besides.
All right, AJ, rematches. Nobody likes them unless they are warranted. The UFC is giving us a ton of them right now, and given that the last fight wasn't super competitive, we do have one thing that we can say, and it's that Marvin Vettori, a staple in the division, probably has life for the first time since the Israel Adesanya age. So does the rest of the middleweights. How does this rematch right here, how does it shake things up, or is this truly just a filler card?
No, Derick, I actually think this one progresses the division a lot, right? We had a stagnant division for a while with Adesanya running the game. Pereira comes in, things start shifting hands. Pereira's a new weight class. Now it's time for the people who were in that mix before, just a couple years ago, really start to have their chance to be able to make a name now that that's actually vacant up there.
You know, I would say unless Chimaev comes in and does the thing that everybody is expecting of him, I'm not going to say everybody, I think DDP, he actually might have a long run, man. Like, these middleweights might be in the same spot they were with Adesanya. It's just you got a new, weird, unorthodox, herky-jerky type dude who's running the division. So we need life. We know that any given day there can be a winner. Doesn't matter the matchup, doesn't matter the odds. So let's go ahead and break it down. But before we do that, we got some news, brother. Hey, UFC 313. Let's hit the recap. And AJ, we don't do this often here on this program, but we've been saying it for a long time. And I think it's only fair to do a small but just victory lap. Magomed Ankalaev, your new light heavyweight champion. AJ, I picked for Ankalaev. I know you picked for Pereira, but let's be real, man. We were all saying it. Pereira, he was the benefactor of a lot of really good matchups, but when you get a dude who didn't even wrestle, but had the tool to freeze up the offense, things got a little bit interesting right here. Let's get a quick recap of UFC 313. Before I run through all of the numbers, let's talk the main event. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, Derick, like you said, didn't even really need to bust out the wrestling, but if you're able to freeze what your opponent does, one of the best in the entire division, yeah, you get the dub, man, especially with the pressure that Ankalaev had. You got to give him credit. And offline, folks, we were speaking about it. Is there enough credit given Ankalaev for this win? I don't think a lot of people are going to see it that way, but you do got to give him credit for the fact that he was able to do what needed to be done to freeze Pereira and be able to get himself into a position that can win.
Yeah, man, you got to give the man some respect. And he says, I'm willing to run it back immediately, which I think is owed to Pereira because he was down to run it back with whoever. Like, he was a people's champ, if you will, even though he was the actual champion. So, done with the victory lap there. AJ, consensus picks. We only had one of them. Hey, listen, let's say the man's name right. Rufy, Mauricio Rufy. Shout out Luffy. Shout out One Piece, King of the Pirates. Hey, listen, man. We said, is this guy the real deal? Under a half a round. That's ridiculous. Against the king, Bobby Green, 2 shots. Stumbled him with the first, knocked him out with the second. AJ, sky's the limit with this guy, yeah?
Absolutely, Derick. If you're able to pull off a spinning heel kick on King Green and just send him to sleep like that, sky's absolutely the limit.
50-fight veteran. Now, he has been on a lot of highlight reels as of late, so we do have to take that into account, but I'm going to give respect where respect is due right there. All right, man. It was a close week. I got the dub on this one, 4-1, moving to 26-14-1. You're right there, 24-16-1, so small lead, but we're pretty much neck and neck. Ankalaev, Gaethje, Lemos, and Rufy wore the winning picks right there. I missed on a big one that you hit on, though. Jalen Turner, listen. Happy retirement to the man. Folks, I would not have bet on Jalen Turner if I knew he had thoughts of retiring since UFC 300, because what I saw in there was not a representation of Jalen Turner at his best. Would you agree? Or is Hernandez just surging right now?
As much as Hernandez is surging, Derick, it was a different form of fighter that entered the cage for Jalen Turner. I mean, he did not look like the tarantula of old. This was somebody who was a little bit slower and a little bit more worried about what's happening in the cage and just a reckless abandonment.
But listen, a couple of weeks are going to pass. Everyone's going to forget about that. And Hernandez is going to put up another big win, depending on who he gets matched up with. The man should be fighting in the top 15 at this point again, right? But I do think, man, Hernandez has shown something special. You know what I mean? I was kind of discounting a little bit, but under the tutelage right there, forgive me, I think he's in the Mike Valley striking camp right there with Bilal Muhammad in Chicago, in that area. Those guys are legit. I think Hernandez can really make something happen. This is a confidence boost too, you know, over everything else. So big win right there. AJ, let's talk about the misses really quickly, and then we're going to kind of speed through everything else. Fiziev, talking about rematches, which we're going to jump into for this week's card, but Fiziev, right? I mean, we saw literally a repeat of the last fight. It was close until the last round, and, you know, Gaethje ran away with it. What do you think?
Yeah, the uppercut changed the entire game, Derick. Very, very close. You get rocked. Gaethje does what he does best. I'm not upset about this one. This was in the realm of possibility of always happening anytime you fight Justin Gaethje, but that uppercut was rough.
Yeah, I mean, that's Justin Gaethje's signature move at the same time, too. So it's interesting how that ended up working out. But again, rematch wasn't warranted. He filled in late notice. It was what it was. That's fine. Here's the big one, man. Put some respect on Amanda Lemos, wrestler. D1 now, baby. Let's go. Nobody wanted to see it on the actual card. We're like, this is boring. This is terrible. But Yasmin Lucindo, I think we just learned you can't play guard. You cannot accept guard. You have to get back up to your feet or get back in top position. Very young, man. She's like 23 years old. What's the prospects looking like for her?
Yeah, if she's able to learn that lesson that you're talking about, Derick, it's still very, very good. The prospects are still very, very high. I mean, we're talking a girl who's only, 1 year, 2 years maybe into the UFC, so there's a lot of growth that can happen right here, and fighting opponents like Lemos and the rest who are going to be facing her in the near future, there's a lot of prospect and a lot of growth she can have.
That's fair play right there. Let's move on over to the prop recap, the thing that's pretty important right here. AJ, unfortunately, you had a void this week, man. Curtis Blades, the fight fell through. Imagine that, man. They had it at UFC Seattle. They moved it to give UFC 13 some depth. Curtis Blades gets sick, and now they moved it a couple months out right here. Heavyweights, man. You guys, you're not getting the opportunities that you need if you can't show up on fight day, but it is what it is. So you're a void on that one. That's a no count. I'm a major miss on mine, folks. Turner Bahamandez over 1.5 rounds. Like I said, a lot of stuff that clearly went into the fight previously, but a bad bet is a bad bet, and I'm going to own up to it. So apologies about that one. That moves me to 3-5 on the year. AJ, 1-6 still. There's some work for both of us to be done. I don't like sitting under 500, and I know you don't either. So time to step it up, if you will, both of us. All right, man. Key takeaways. AJ, 5 dogs cashed. This was Ankalaev, Gaethje, Lemos, Bruno Ferreira, and Ozzy Diaz. Your sleeper right there. That was a fun fight to kick off the card. 4 of 10 fights went the distance, and Jalen Turner, again, he did announce his retirement post-fight. 7-6 in the UFC. AJ, what are people gonna remember Jalen Turner for? And then we'll jump into this card.
Unfortunately, Derick, I want to give a little bit more credit, but I feel like being a middle of the pack and dangerous fighter who never found his real big moments. I know there's a couple, especially when he entered the UFC, he was knocking a couple people out left and right, and we were all expecting him to be that long, rangy striker who's just putting work together, but kind of stumbled in the middle of the pack and wasn't able to actually get that foothold I feel like he deserved.
He was pretty much Ignacio Bahamandez before Ignacio Bahamandez, you know what I mean? But yeah, like you said, without the realized potential. So he's only 29. We'll see if he comes back. We know MMA retirements are very short-lived. He's even left the door open saying things could change, but whatever he does, we wish him the best. All right, AJ, that's enough recap. We're done. UFC 13 is in the past. We're here for UFC Vegas 104, UFC Fight Night 254, whatever you want to call it. And let's jump straight into the bet sheet, my friend. Lots of consensus picks, a very stark difference from last week. All right, man, I'm going to rattle them off. You know, we're going to talk about the consensus. We're going to leave the contrarian picks alone for later. We got Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, which I'm actually a little surprised as being a consensus pick. Alexander Hernandez, Damon Blackshear, newcomer, Nurgozhay. I was learning how to pronounce this. I think we're good there. And then Kevin Vallejos right there, man. Those are your consensus picks, folks. If you want to break down, if you want to know why, stick around. But AJ, tried and true, give us the theme of the week for our consensus picks.
Theme this week, folks, is domination, right? Any of these guys, all of these guys, I should say, if they're going to be winning their fights, they're going to be dominating in their style, taking over and running with it.
I had to think about that, but I think you're right. I think that fits the bill for just about everybody. So, folks, bonus plays a little bit later in the show, sleepers later in the show, but we do got some prop blocks for you. AJ, you got a good one. Talk to him.
Yes, we're trying to get back up on those winning ways, folks. We're going Alexander Hernandez, versus Kurt Holobaugh, going the distance, right? Minus money right here at minus 170. With the experience Hernandez has and the pressure wrestling approach of Kurt Holobaugh, at least that we've seen out of Kurt Holobaugh as of lately, this tends to lead to longer fights. I think this one's going the distance, especially with how durable both fighters can be.
Yep, and along the same theme right here, I think we've seen some weirdly priced odds here where we could definitely take advantage, folks. Just because it's a chalky week does not mean that there's not money to be made, and I'm rolling with what I will consider the easiest bet of the night. Marvin Vettori, Roman Dolidze to go the distance at minus 190. Yeah, minus 190 is the play right there. They went the full 3 rounds the last time. Some would say maybe the cardio might not hold up on the Dolidze end for 5 rounds, but if he sticks around, I think that this is the safest bet that you can make. So make yourself some money. And AJ, before we jump in, the actual main card right here, brother, let's just take a quick second. I'm going to give us 15 seconds to soak it in, right? 4,000 plus subscribers at this point. We do our check-in every couple of weeks and whatnot, but it's not too late to grow and to be a part of that. This is going to be a little prelude to what's going to come a little bit later, but if you want to be featured on our program and you want your questions answered about fight week, whatever it is, if it's appropriate, of course, we're going to vet them, but send them in our way. Instagram, YouTube comments, those are the best ways, and you will be featured. If you have not subscribed yet, AJ, they should definitely smash the subscribe button, right?
Absolutely, folks. Smash that subscribe button. Derick just said over 4,000 followers going into this. You know what that means? Yeah, it's a good number for looking for us, still growing this channel, but 4,000 money makers out there week in and week out. Nobody makes you money like us over here on this show, so make sure you're following the rest of them and know where to go.
Favorite fighters, favorite fight show for a reason, baby. All right, and the reason is because we're jumping straight into the main event, man.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Now let's talk about the rematch. AJ, Vettori, Dolidze, number 2. For Vettori, this has actually been a pretty long layoff, man. If you're looking at the last time that he fought Dolidze, that was 2 fights ago. After beating Dolidze, after beating Cannonier, the man has been on the shelf. Shoulder injury, but he's back in action. And then you got Dolidze on the other hand coming off that knockout victory against Kevin Holland right there. Listen, man, this dude is serious, Dolidze. He's this knockout guy, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and we haven't really seen him hone in on one or the other. It's always a mixed bag. But my question to you, as always, just like we talked about last week with the last rematch, what makes this fight different? Why is this fight happening?
What makes this fight different, Derick? I mean, besides a couple years off and a couple different fights for Dolidze to find himself able to grow, honestly, not much besides 2 rounds, 2 extra rounds right here. And I do think with how the first fight went, right, with the kind of back and forth nature, or at least being able to find moments for each fighter in their own aspects, add a couple other rounds on there. You even said it yourself. A lot of people are thinking Dolidze might gas out right here, but this is the chance to prove to either fighter, hey, there's somewhat of an unsurety what's out there, right? Everybody still nobody respects DDP. I mean, I think he's an absolute great champ. I agree with you, Derick. I think he's going to be running it for a while, but a lot of the fighters in there think they can get one over on DDP, and this is the moment for when people are able to make that known, like, hey, I can go 5 rounds, I can do it, you know, in style, put me up against a champ and let me see what I got. It's a call to action fight.
Yeah, no, that's actually fair. And I think that there's another thing that we have to thread in here too. And I think it's about perception, right? Scoring, things of that nature. We revisit this every now and then. But let's just take a quick aside back to the Pereira fight last week, right? Him and Ankalaev. If you're looking at people who are number crunchers and they're like, well, he leg kicked him 4,000 times and had, you know what I mean, all these body shots and all that, so he should have won, right? But if you watch the fight, you see a little bit of a different thing. I think we actually see something similar here with Vettori. Vettori is a nonstop chipping at you, little pot shots here and there. Dolidze, though, it's only going to take him, give him a stumble, hit him with a big shot, you win the round. I don't care all the little damage. I'm not going to say I don't care. I don't think the judges care about the little ticky-tack stuff because they don't have real-time stats to count that. It's just going to be about damage perception. So Dolidze absolutely has a path to victory right here, because the one thing about Marvin Vettori that we know is while he has power, the man has, 2 finishes in his UFC career? 10 of his last 12 fights went to decision here, AJ. So let's talk about the scoring. How does that implement? Is it as simple as just damage trumps all, or is it more nuanced than that?
Nah, Derick, unfortunately, as we've seen the UFC, especially this last year in 2025, how we've seen the judges really look at fights, damage absolutely trumps all. And even with the Pereira fight you were talking about just last week, damage would have trumped all, but there was really no significant damage that was done, right? Legs kicks, we all know they hurt, we all know they do damage, but they're not getting the oohs and the ahs like a big overhand right or a spinning heel kick like we also saw last weekend, right? Those are the things that make the judges really take notes and really make big moves and give you points for those kind of in those fights. If that's not there, control absolutely will win, but I do think moments, big damaging moments, are what trump all nowadays.
So we need to see some volume then on both of these guys' sides. We know Vettori's going to bring it. Dolidze, I don't think so as much. We know the grappling kind of nullifies each other, so I don't particularly see them trying to get this fight to the ground. Instead of it just being a repeat of the last time, man, just give me something, because I don't have much else on this fight. I think that this is the first fight all over again. That's why I'm picking the over. I want the distance. I don't even care about the over, which is 4.5. Give me the pure distance play right there. And it has crept up to minus 222, folks, for the live odd. I gave you the minus 190 prop lock. It's crept up to minus 220. You got to grab it ASAP. But what do you got here, AJ?
Yeah, there's a reason it's creeping up, Derick. I agree with you. I do think it's going to be very similar to the first fight. The big turning tide, right? The X factor is going to be who is more fresh in that 5th round, who's able to make it actually work, right? Especially if it's going in tied 2-2, that's really going to be a deciding factor. And who has that dog in them? That's going to be who wins the fight. I think it's going to be Dolidze. I'm rolling with him, but I think and going back to what we said, damage wins. If he's able to damage Vettori and bloody him up, I think he takes his victory home.
Too. So I'm rolling with tried and true. I'm rolling with the evil I know versus the one around the corner who we haven't figured out yet with the Dolidze. But hey, listen, I think that this is going to be a pretty cut and dry fight. Tail whoever you want to tail right here. I got Vettori decision, AJ Dolidze and method decision.
Decision, yeah.
Okay, fair. All right. Vettori's never been finished in 27 pro fights either, man. So, it's something to take into account. But easy main event, folks. This is a chalky card this week. So it's going to be pretty tried and true for a couple of them. I was a little surprised when I was looking at the pre-fight odds and before doing my analysis and whatnot. But Chidi Njokuani, he's back. And they gave him a veteran. Not just a veteran, AJ. They gave him a sleeper vet. A dude who a lot of the people who just became fans over the last couple of years, they probably, even though they might have seen him here and there, probably don't know about him. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, capoeira, nasty kickboxing, nasty striking, but the difference here and the catalyst of this fight is though he is much smaller frame-wise, the man can grapple too. He's a little bit of a powerhouse right here. Chidi, 2-0 since dropping down to 170, major size advantage, but he's going to decision against these guys, man. Does he have the skills, the tools, the technical capacities to stave off Zaleski without getting taken to the ground and pretty much ridden out for the rest of the fight?
No, unfortunately not, Derick. One of the first notes I have for Chidi, improving all his skills with each and every fight. Like, we've seen this guy grow and grow and grow and grow, but if you end up in the bag that Zaleski has, he's gonna hold you down, right? And that's the big question I have. What does Chidi do if he's not able to get off his back or away from the takedown? It seems like it's going to be much of a control fest and just beat you up until you're no longer really ready to fight. And that's kind of the Zaleski style. The dude is a hammer. He can actually absolutely get down. And if Chidi is willing to engage in those moments because he's grown his game that much further, I think it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, and to answer your question, what I think happens if he gets put on the ground, I think elbows off the bottom. It's not going to win you a fight, but I think that's what he's going to resort to as opposed to I got to get back up to my feet. And that's where I saw the problem in this matchup. Now, what does it mean to you? Yes, Dos Santos, he just lost to Randy Brown. Long, rangy guy, very similar to Chidi, completely different styles, but similar frame and all that. He lost to him. But in the fight before that, he went to a majority draw against Rinat Fakhretdinov, AJ. When it comes to talking about a dude who is relentless, a dude who can grapple with the best of them, to be able to go to a majority draw based off of damage and your capacities that way, yeah, man, I just think that even though he's old, he's in the right place in terms of like the eyes of the bettors. However, we do have to take into account at minus 190, I was all like, dang, all right, he's the favorite, and that's a fair price to pay. The more we start creeping towards 250, I don't feel nearly as comfortable. Don't get me wrong. I think he's the right side. I think he's the winning side. But what's max price you're willing to pay on Dos Santos here?
Yeah, about 250, 240, right around there, Derick. Even 200 is a little steep for the price we're going to pay, especially with how the Randy Brown fight went. I do see, I'm with you with the similarities, especially the size and the length. And if Chidi isn't willing to engage in the grappling and he just maintains that range, I can see this being a hard fight for Dos Santos trying to actually get this where he needs it to be. So right in that range, I'm a little iffy right now.
Yeah, the hardest part for me right here is that I just feel like Zaleski has to close the distance, man. Look at the reach disadvantage, bro. You have a 7-inch reach disadvantage. Njokuani is going to be throwing knees up the middle, uppercuts, elbows, everything to stop the forward pressure. And if he can keep Dos Santos on the back foot, who knows, man? Maybe age does catch up to him. Maybe this isn't the correct play. But all things indicate on my end, this is the play to make right here. I'm just surprised to be in consensus with the odds makers and with the general public because Chidi is a popular enough name. The Njokuani name, even his brother Anthony, it's a popular enough name to at least buy you a couple points on the betting ticker right there. But last thing here, man. Oleg Sichuk, Albert Duraev, and Gregory Rodriguez, right? Those were fights that he had flashes and glimpses and moments, especially the Rodriguez fight, but you dropped them. Jared Gooden and Reese McKee, are those guys the caliber of a Zaleski Dos Santos?
No, they're not.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat right there. And I think that's all we need to say to really put this in perspective. So to kind of round this out, aside from Dos Santos being the play, what do we like to make money right here? Again, AJ, look at it. Total rounds. A half a round. ESPN bet. Go to the sports book and start betting half rounds, folks. But minus 110 for over a half. Under a half is minus 120. Sorry, I'm not even used to seeing odds like this. You bet the over all day on this one, right?
All day, especially for half a round at not bad minus money odds either. Would you say 110, 120? What was it?
Minus 110.
All day long. Absolutely. I give a lot more respect to Chitty than that. I do think that there's a finish that could happen on either sides, but if anything it does, it's going to be later on the rounds once these guys are tired and finding holes.
You know what I mean? We're not going to see another spinning heel kick. I mean, this guy could do it, bro. No, I'm just joking with you guys. Yeah, no, I think we leave it at that, man. That's the cash bet right here. If you don't care about the sides, if you're indifferent and you just want to make some money right here, over a half a round, minus 110 right here. Go make some money, folks. But that is the consensus pick. Elizeu Zaleski, Dos Santos. And moving on to another young versus old type, even though Chitty and Zaleski were pretty similar. Alexander Hernandez, man, he gets Kurt Holobaugh. I'm surprised to see the career trajectory move to where it has gone to right here, man. A tweener at 155 pounds, dropped down to 145, just didn't like how he felt there, how he performed. And now you get a super veteran, Kurt Holobaugh, right, who's trying to resurge his career after the tough season where they put the vets on there. Listen, man, I think that this is a matchup that is very simple. I think Alexander Hernandez needs to move. He needs to be on his bike for 15 minutes against Kurt Holobaugh, because what is he going to do? You actually alluded to this a little bit earlier. He's going to get in your face and he's going to pressure wrestle you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the game for Kurt Holobaugh. Be on the front foot, crush distance with power combos, right? Get on the inside, do some damage, but really just keep the pressure on Alexander Hernandez. And to Hernandez's own right, he is a great wrestler, so he is able to get on that bike and cut corners and be able to avoid all the strengths that Holobaugh presents. It's just, we've seen Hernandez be in positions where he doesn't always show up on fight night.
We definitely have. And it's definitely come in between different weight classes and just not finding his consistency. But AJ, would I be crazy when I first looked at this? I said, I think Kurt Holobaugh is the side. I think he's the guy that you want to bet on for this one. That was my initial thought. Then I watched some film, and I know that Hernandez is way faster than Holobaugh. He moves very, very effectively. If you look at his last fight against Austin Thud Hubbard, listen, fantastic pressure dude too. He just couldn't grab onto him. He's too slow, right? That's when I was like, all right, Hernandez almost, though, has to fight a perfect fight here, because Holobaugh is throwing bricks at you at the same time. He's not just looking to wrestle. My big concern was after a big first round push for Holobaugh, like he did against Krzyzewski, right? Or, Trey Ogden, he just kind of got wrestled into oblivion. But for Krzyzewski, first round, fantastic, stifled the power. He ended up winning the fight. But that slowdown after the first round was pretty substantial, man. Hey, hard, AJ, to bet on 38-year-old fighters. So not particularly taking the Holobaugh side, but do you see where I'm coming from here?
Absolutely, Derick, especially when Kurt Holobaugh's leading the dance. He has volume on the front foot, well-timed counters. He is able to do the things that make him look good, especially in the early rounds. But like you said, once the output drops and you kind of get exasperated in those fights, and honestly, I have the same note for Alexander Hernandez, right? Good pressure, technical, but he slows down halfway through his fights. It's again going to be another one who's fresher and who's able to stay fresher for the entire fight. I think I'm going with the youth in that case.
With the youth right here, man. But I'm saying, you have to be perfect on that bike for 15 minutes, bro. Because the moment he slows down, all it takes is one takedown, in my opinion, for Holobaugh to change the entire fight right here. So again, I think Alexander Hernandez is the play right here. But I don't feel great about it. So, AJ, taking a look at the number, minus 200, the live odd. When it opened up, we were looking at minus 190, so it hasn't shifted majorly. For youth, that's a price you got to pay. For youth, right? You kind of don't give an option. You should not be a minus 150, a minus 115 against Kurt Holobaugh. No disrespect. But the other thing, too, this is my last thing. This is my other big concern. I just think Holobaugh is just a lot bigger. Just frame, just like a bigger guy, right? So, like, is there any concern right there?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're Alexander Hernandez, I feel like and especially with his frame, 5'9", going up against 155ers that are cutting a lot of weight right there, even the 145 pounders, like there's still some tall guys in there and some bigger frame guys, but being a tweener, I think Alexander Hernandez is used to having to fight the bigger guy. He's always going to be the smaller one, so I don't have too much concern, except for the gas tank. I mean, if Holobaugh does get those takedowns and then wears you down, then yeah, I'm absolutely concerned in that aspect.
All right, we'll give it to him, AJ. Normally, we would go consensus pick. How do you see it? But we know how you see it. Talk to the people.
Yeah, we're going distance right here, folks. Prop lock all day long, whether you're tailing one or the other, right? I do think this fight is going to go to distance, and if you're tailing Alexander Hernandez, plus 115 decision makes sense, but you could also hit that over the distance in general and don't have to worry about who's winning this one.
And a slight change. The prop for Hernandez by points is shifted to minus money, minus 105, but the fight go to the distances remain the same at minus 170. So you got your lock. I think we leave it at that. And AJ, let's talk about the next one, brother. Blackshear, the dude we've been saying is the real deal. He just hasn't lived up to the potential. He gets the Alexander Hernandez treatment, man. They give him Cody Gibson. All right, right on. Hey, man, jokes aside, look at this number. Blackshear minus 450 plus 325 comeback. Line has remained pretty consistent here, super heavy on the Blackshear side, which tells me if we're looking at his last couple, right? You lost to, Jackson and Bautista, right? Like back-to-back rough losses, a decision loss, and then the TKO. But everything else, man, you're knocking people out, you're submitting them, you're doing the whole thing. Here's my question here, man. Cody Gibson, should he be this much of a dog, given his fight style? I know he's a crafty vet. I know he's in the Kurt Holobaugh camp right here, but I feel like this is a slightly disrespectful based on how gritty of a fighter he is.
Yeah, no, especially how dangerous and slick his submissions are, Derick. I mean, yeah, Blackshear, I do give it to him. He's the more well-rounded, more athletic style of fighter. We've seen him do some incredible stuff, but Gibson is very, very dangerous in how he approaches the game, right? He locks up a submission on you. He's going to be sitting there for a while or choking you out, one or the other. Like this is his game, and that's how he fights. Blackshear is dangerous there, but really he's more of piecing you up to find that submission and let those openings, whereas Gibson, he'll just get there and control and bully you into it.
That's where my concern lies right here. I know that Blackshear has tremendous hips. I know the sprawls are fantastic, but Gibson will look to lock on and hold on to you. And this is another scenario similar to, what was the fight that we were just talking about right here? Yeah, maybe the Chitty fight. Maybe it was a different fight. But where if you assume plot and position, it was the Lucindo fight, where you just accept guard. And you're just like, I'm cool. I'll try to work my way out, find a submission off of guard. Because if you got sick jiu-jitsu, in your mind, it makes sense. But in MMA, you have to have the thought process of, I have to wrestle up. I have to sweep. I have to get to the top position at any point possible. And I think Cody Gibson encapsulate that much more than Blackshear. However, the line is what the line is, so we have to figure out how we bet this here. There's no value for a Blackshear better in pure money line. But let's take a look at a couple of these props right here. Points, minus 120. Heavy points favorite right there, which makes sense. Plus 225 for submission, plus 850 by knockout. What do you like out of those?
Yeah, I mean, instantly, I like the decision, especially because I give Cody Gibson a lot of credit in how he's able to not only attempt submissions, but defend submissions going forward for that. But, Derick, I mean, I was looking at it earlier. Only one submission loss for Gibson, right? Like he is very, very dangerous going into those kind of solid fights. So I don't really see a submission happening, but plus 230, I mean, that's one of the better odds you're getting for basically a complete blowout, or at least what the odds makers are seeing is a complete blowout.
Yeah, I think that the fair play right here, man, is maybe to bet rounds here, AJ, because I need to see what's going on here. Let me just check something. Yeah, no, this is another one. AJ, I'm not joking. I want you to do this in real time right now so that people know that I'm not crazy and I'm not tripping. Go on ESPN if you don't already have it pulled up. Look at the fight odds on Blackshear and Gibson and tell me you see total rounds at a half a round again. Folks, while AJ is looking that up, I want to point out these half a round odds right here that they have on Blackshear. He's a heavy favorite and like suitably so. But unless he is aggressively counter grappling, unless Gibson really just falls into a guillotine or something like that, I think that's kind of a ridiculous odds to look at the over and under being a half a round. AJ, am I crazy or are you seeing the same thing?
You're not crazy, Derick. Over half a round at minus 375. It's so weird that that ESPN's kind of doing these new odds at over half a round. Like with this, I mean, I guess from their like taking the outsider's thought process, right? You have a minus 450 favorite going up against a plus 325 dog. You're expecting a steamroll in right here, so maybe it makes sense. But I have no idea who's betting a under point 0.5, right? Under 2.5 minutes into a fight at plus 260, folks. If you are cashing in on that, show us the tickets.
Yeah, I need to see the ticket, but just the general consensus on the any other sports book, like a consensus sports book that you look up right now, 2.5 rounds is the over under, minus 205 for the over, plus 165 for the under the last time that I checked. So I think that we should take those odds into account as opposed to the half round. And AJ, minus 205 at 2.5, depending on what it's sitting at right now. You have to take those, right?
Yeah, you have to take those. Yeah, the minus 205 makes a lot of sense, especially if you're not swinging one way or the other, especially for these fighters. Like I do give Gibson a lot of credit, and he can find his way to a victory right here. I just think Blackshear has more options to be able to get it done. I think this one has a possibility of going decision, but if you're looking for just rounds right here, over 2.5 at minus 205 does make a lot of sense.
And I'm going to make an official call right here. Blackshear is the play. If there's anybody who upsets somebody, and if Cody Gibson is that guy, I would not be surprised. It's just matchups, man. Styles make fights, and I think he's got a very intriguing style, and he's a big guy. You know what I mean? Big frame. 37 years old, though, so we'll see. Blackshear, that's your consensus pick right there. Don't bet on him, though. If you're tailing my picks, no pure bets on Blackshear right here. Minus 450. Too steep. We're not taking it. All right. AJ, next up. Nurgozhay, Kazakhstan's new elite fighter right here. Dude with some knockout power, at least in the light heavyweight division. Hey, man, these guys are coming, and they're ready, and they have skills. When I say skills, I'm not talking about the dude who's like, oh, yeah, man, I used to box, I knocked people out. I used to play in the NFL, right? We're talking about dudes who can grapple, who can box, who can do it all, kickbox the whole nine. He gets Bredson, Ribeiro, and AJ. I was so high on this dude coming into the UFC. Like, he's got the tools. He's got the frame. He just doesn't really have the size, kind of in a weird size spot for light heavyweight, and he just hasn't put it together, man. I mean, listen, split decision win in your last one against Machado. Not the most inspiring win, but a win is a win is a win. You lost to Gadzhi Asulov, and you got knocked out to Zhang. So my question to you on this one is, does he deserve, with an 81-inch reach, does he deserve to be the plus 300 dog that he is against a man who's making his UFC debut?
No, not at all, Derick. When I saw these lines out, my mind was blown, right? Like, it's crazy. A lot of this fight card, folks, we've been talking about already. There's a huge disparity between the favorites and the underdogs right here. This is one that blew my mind because I expected Ribeiro to be the favorite going into this, especially, don't get me wrong, Dair, yes, he is very, very talented in there. He is able to do some crazy things, undefeated fighter. But, I mean, like, in my mind, when I saw this, it just did not compute at all.
Well, I'll tell you part of the reason why, man. He beat a champion in the regional scene, a big champion in the regional scene before coming onto the Contender Series. You get the sick Robert Whittaker-esque knockout on the Contender Series where you were stalking your prey, dealing with I thought he was dealing with an eye poke. They were calling it just like a twitch that he had. It looked like he had an eye poke that he was dealing with for the fight, which makes it more impressive if that's the case. But the point is, man, you come off of these knockout wins. They're expecting you to grapple. They were actually expecting you to take the fight to the ground. And you said, I'll just head him off and I'll get the fight done on the feet. I think that's why they're saying that. Because Ribeiro, while he's good, I just think he's a little bit too tentative and he needs to take advantage of one weapon in particular. That's going to be the calf kick in this matchup. But it's going to be hard, AJ, because this is an open stance matchup. Southpaw for Nurgozhay, orthodox for Ribeiro, and it just comes down to Ribeiro is going to be crisp, and I think he's got faster hands, clearly, and he's going to be landing some shots. But if Nurgozhay lands the shot, it's over, man. His chin hasn't really been holding up. It's been a little suspect. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the best way for Ribeiro to go and win this fight, fast hands, fast counters, maintain that distance, and don't get caught with that beautiful left kick that Nurgozhay has, man, because he is very, very dangerous, and utilize the straight punches, right? Those the ones A to B are always faster, and they always hit harder, especially if Ribeiro is able to find those moments, crash in, and then get out. I do think he has a chance to do it, but, I mean, Nurgozhay has a lot of intangibles that seem to just fall in his favor whenever he's in a fight. He has that presence to him where he's just going to go in there and dominate, and that he does, and that might be another reason why he's such a massive favorite.
Yeah, I'm picking Nurgozhay. I don't like the odds. Minus 400, I think, is silly right here. I absolutely agree with you on that end. This is also his second career fight outside of Eastern Europe. So interesting to see if you get any more jitters. I felt like he had it in the first round of that Contender Series fight. That's just like what my intuition was. But the last thing here, man, he's a fast starter, man. 7 first-round finishes, 3 of those finishes in under 1 minute, which is pretty damn quick, but it goes to show what's your strength of schedule. And the last piece right here is just my note. We know the consensus pick. It's Nurgozhay. I'm not going to place a bet on this right here. We'll talk totals in just one moment. But AJ, I put for Ribeiro, and I want to know if you believe this sentiment. Forgive me if we already repeated this, but he has the tools, the reach, the speed, all the stuff that I just listed off, man. But the big question is, can he just handle the frame of a guy like Nurgozhay, who just seems like he just muscles people around in there? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's to be questioned, because even in Ribeiro's last fight, it was against Machado. Machado's a bigger guy coming down, cut weight to get or dropped a weight class to be able to fight in this one, and you saw him not have momentum or control or finding those moments where he's able to do it. He did look a little bit more tentative, and I think we're going to see that again. And I do think the frame has a lot to go into that.
Perfect. Good outlook right there. All right, man. So for totals, 2.5 minus 800 for over 2.5, plus 500 for under 2.5. Okay, that changes things right here, man. AJ, what are you thinking here? I feel like you have to smash the under.
That's what I was about to say, Derick. You have to smash that under, especially with how Nurgozhay goes in and fights. Yeah, we could see a decision, but we could also see another fabulous knockout. And I think with 2.5, especially how these big boys are hitting, I'd smash that all day long.
Sorry, folks, if you see my expression crumpled up right now, AJ, I got to run this by you. Someone's wrong here. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 800. Fight goes the distance, plus 200. Someone's wrong.
That's interesting, Derick. There's a world where this goes to decision. I don't think that's going to be the case. I like the under, especially if those are the numbers, but minus 800 to a plus 200 for just 2.5 more minutes. Yeah, someone's wrong there.
Well, listen, folks, excuse me. This is where you take advantage right here. You look at these silly lines and you say, hey, if you're going to let me bet it, I'm going to bet it. That's your fault. That's not mine. My play on this one, under 2.5, plus 500, call it a day. Moving on to the opener. And they made this the opener for a reason, folks. They actually did some bout switches, order, and stuff like that. Sting Choi, he's back. And God, they didn't do my man no favors. You get Kevin Vallejos, the man who lost to John Silva and grew from the John Silva loss, because we know how popular that man is. He came back with a vengeance. He got, 3 knockout victories in a row. Actually hit almost a cycle right there. 3rd round knockout, 2nd round knockout, and 1st round knockout. Now he's in the UFC, and they're giving him a vet. They're giving him a dude who's got all of the tools, all the weapons in Sting Choi. But man, Choi, it just seems like the chin's not holding up these days like it used to. Vallejos is a guy who will absolutely knock you out. I don't want to get ahead of myself, AJ. I get Ilia Topuria vibes when I watch Vallejos fight. Do you?
I can see what you're talking about. I could absolutely see what you're talking about, Derick. Young, fast, hits hard, has good counters. The straight right of his is absolute piston, but he's able to work in different situations and thrive in those situations as well. I can see what you're talking about, especially with the speed and how he's able to put together attacks.
It's also the countering in bunches, right? It's not one shot off of a counter, right? When he counters, he's throwing 3 your way, but it's that little slip off to the side. As he's in front of you, it's just conventional boxing headwork and footwork, foot movement and all that good stuff that most MMA practitioners don't really employ, but he does those angles so well. Rip the body, come up to the head, and still be in position to throw power, hips in place, all of that. Not to get too ahead of myself. Listen, man, the dude's a favorite for a reason. He's minus 725 right now, plus 450 comeback on Sting Choi. Hurts my heart because I am a very, very big Choi fan, but the reality is this, man. Vallejos, he gets in his bag, he applies some pressure, and he's knocking most people out. But Sting Choi is not a lost cause here. The man can counter, and if he counters the right way, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going down. Does Vallejos present that opportunity in this fight?
I think he does, Derick. I think he does, especially because Vallejos, he can be a little wild when he's hunting the KOs, right? He's still a younger fighter. He smells that blood going into the water, and then he's over just hunting. And with how dangerous Choi is and the pop he has on his shots, I can see a world where there is a counter lurking for the Choi corner.
As much as I want it to happen, and I almost want to put it into fruition, you know what I mean? Some manifestation and all that. I think that one of the biggest reasons why Choi is going to be such a dog, he's a dog in terms of the numbers, but I just think going in there in terms of watching the fight, I think this is a confidence fight right here. I think Vallejos has probably never been more confident in his career, even having that loss to John Silva. And Choi has probably never been as least confident as he's been in his career. Listen, you're struggling. If I look at the last 5, Alex Caceres, you got submitted. Josh Holobaugh, split decision loss. Mike Trezano, you got knocked out. Oh, that was a sad one. Jarno Aarons, you squeak in a win. You finally get back on track. And then Steve Garcia Chinzy in the first round. The guy that he was 5 fights ago is not the guy he is today. So I'm going to say all of this to simply say I think Vallejos wins via knockout. And if I'm taking a look at the odds on it, AJ, minus 175. It's like the third, fourth, or fifth fighter that has like a minus odd on knockout props or on a decision prop. So how do you see this fight playing out other than one-way traffic?
Other than one-way traffic, Derick, I think the way Choi is able to make this, because I agree with you, I think Vallejos has a really, like, I don't want to say 9 times out of 10 shot, but a really good shot of winning these fights a lot. But the only way for Seungwoo Choi to actually make this not just a one-way dog walking event, he has to hit those counters, man, maintain that range. I'm pretty sure he has a higher reach. Let me check, double check. Yeah, he has a big reach advantage going into this one. If he's able to stay at distance, work the kicks, work his timing, and work those counters, he has a good shot to make a very technical, or to make a very wild and dangerous fight into a technical showdown, and have Vallejos just sitting there trying to work the counters as well. That's his best way to win this one. Do I see it happening? Not necessarily, man. And even the odds makers have it, minus 700 plus right now? It's crazy.
Yeah, man, you got some championship experience here on Vallejos coming into the UFC too. Not UFC champion experience, but on the regional scene. Last thing, man. Again, not to be too high on the Topuria vibes right here, but 12 of his 14 wins are by a finish. Slip and rip style, man. He's going to try to push Choi up against the cage, and once he gets there, I think it's going to be all over. So avoid the cage at all costs if you are Sting Choi, because we're rooting for you. But Kevin Vallejos, is your consensus pick. And with that being said, folks, that's your main card picks. UFC Vegas 104, chalky card, but we got more where that came from. AJ, not all the picks are done. We got some bonus plays for the people. We're not going to mince any words. We'll jump straight to it.
And now, the Bloody Water Podcast presents your Fight Night bonus plays.
For our first bonus play, I'm actually going to go in backwards order just so it spices things up a little bit. Damon Blackshear versus Cody Gibson to win by decision, minus money. 115 on here, but let me just recount what the live odd is. Minus 120. It's creeping up. Talk to the people.
Creeping up, get your bets in while you still can. If this is one you're looking for, Blackshear, already said it, huge favorite. Could he finish Gibson? Yes, but Gibson has never been knocked out in his career. Only one submission loss, especially early in his, or they were early in his career. Might be giving a little too much respect for Gibson right here, but I do think this one goes to the judges.
All right, fair play. Next up, a guy we have not talked about yet, but he is our featured prelim on this card. Ryan Spann versus Waldo Cortez Acosta to win, just pure money line, plus 145 dog play. I love the respect to Superman Spann. I would love to see some consistency from him. I just don't know if Cortez Acosta is the guy to get it done. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one I was interested to see, because you think the name Superman Spann, you're like, oh yeah, he's going in there, he's doing work like the Superman of old, right? Like the 2 years ago when he was lined up to fight Anthony Smith, right? When he was knocking out Dominic Reyes, right? That's the Spann we're expected to be seeing, right? And if that Superman shows up, this line could absolutely hit, right? Spann hits harder. He's more well-rounded and has more UFC experience going into it. He just needs to not fall into the trap and be hungrier than he has been, at least in the past, and not fall into the traps that Cortez Acosta is going to have, and just don't get controlled, right? If he's able to not be controlled right there, I can see him having a lot of success.
All right, another fair play right there. We'll see how that one goes. AJ, one that I imagine we're very intimately familiar with, at least I am, because this was on the main card. It actually got bumped off of the main card. But Soo Young versus AJ Cunningham. And listen, man, massive disparity in this line. The play is go the distance at plus 130, but given that Yu is a minus 725 favorite with a plus 450 comeback on Cunningham, talk to the people. How does this happen?
This was an interesting one, Derick. I was trying to find some ways to be able to make some money right here. Plus 130, one of the best odds you're having, or at least that's closest to winning and with a decent outcome, right? Once the pace of AJ Cunningham slows down, very fast to start, but Soo Young is able to gain more control time. That's where I see this one going, actually. So both fighters staying present in how they're actually looking to approach the fight, and then finding those big moments to draw out the fight. I do think Soo Young is going to be the victor of this one. I can just see him having trouble early on in the fight and then having to pick up back in the fight, leading to a longer, more drawn out occasion.
And this is going to be a funny one too, man, because when you watch both of them in the octagon, AJ Cunningham sitting at 5'10", 135-pounder, ridiculous frame. The 5'6" guy is the minus 725 favorite, though. Oh, man, how life works. All right, man, last bonus play right here. Vallejos versus Choi, under 1.5, plus 110. I like the odds on this one, man. I think it's definitely doable. We'll see how long Choi lasts in there. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, folks, we've already broke this one down, so I'll keep it simple. 18 combined finishes between them, 16 of those being knockouts. 10 of those 16 happened in the first round. I'm expecting Choi to be aggressive. I'm expecting Vallejos to want to keep the momentum, add a third to his KO streak right now. I can see this fight ending early, plus money as well. I'd be a little happier at 2.5, but 1.5 still does make a lot of sense.
All right, so the question becomes UFC Fight Night 254. There's only one play that can be the official bonus play. What do you got for us?
Official bonus play, folks. We're going Vallejos versus Choi, under 1.5, plus money right here. Make sure you get in, because I do think these odds can be slipping pretty quick.
That's going to be a name you want to remember. Vallejo right there. Hopefully we got a fun one. All right, folks, now we got the most important part. AJ, arguably one of the most important part. We need to highlight the unknowns of today, but the stars of tomorrow, the people that you're going to tell all your friends about, and when they become champions, they'll be like, damn, you've been on that guy for a while. Similar to how we were on Ankalaev before he became a champion, right? You learn it because we watch it, because we love this stuff. AJ, you got a fun sleeper. You got a real veteran versus a dude who, let's just say I saw a funny tweet. It said he's going to take the jiu-jitsu community back 20 years. By the way, he's just going to stand up like Derick Lewis. Talk to the people for your sleeper, brother. What you got?
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
Hopefully the Wizard of KOs can get it done, folks. I got Carlos Vera versus Josias Musasa, man. And yeah, like Derick said, we got a veteran versus a young gun right here. Carlos Vera, dangerous submission threat right here. Sneaky sprawls and can sometimes get lost in accepting the bottom position. And he's going up against a knockout artist, right? He's from the Dominican Congo. I forget the actual name, but Congo. Undefeated fighter making his UFC debut. Natural striker, man. He looks fluid in there. He flows, he rolls, has very, very slick hands. Crazy pop in his shot, especially for 135 pounds. What you need to know, folks, the dominant specialist is going to win this fight. 13 combined finishes between the two of them. Vera, he's got 5 submissions, 7 KOs coming from the Musasa corner. 2 fighters coming from what could be considered the UFC farm system, right? We got Dana White Contender Series and the Ultimate Fighter, but both have the potential to make a big name for themselves right here this weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one, and it's got a little bit of a regional pride storyline. Ecuador for Vera, and it's the Democratic Republic of Congo for Musasa right there.
Thank
you. So it's going to be a fun one. All right, folks, I got to take it back to my roots for my sleeper. We're talking first fight of the night. You know what that means. If you watch the show, we're not even going to explain it. You know what that means. But more important, I have long been a fan of women's mixed martial arts, and I want to talk about somebody that I listed for our award show this past year, knockout of the year. I got no respect on it, but that's how good of a knockout it was. I had to talk about it. Yunesi Dubin versus Carly Judas in the women's flyweight division. Dubin, 6-0, undefeated, coming off of a knockout of the year contender in her last fight on the Contender Series. And guess what? She opens up as a plus 290 dog against Carly Judas, who herself is coming off of a fight of the night split decision, a loss, but she hasn't been doing too hot in her run thus far. This is a sleeper because there's 8 combined finishes between the two. 6 of them are on the side of Dubin, though. Or, excuse me, 5 of them for Dubin. 3 of them for Judas. You have a striker with massive power in Dubin, who I think is a little less refined and a little less polished than a fighter like Judas, which is going to be interesting because a finish can come out of here. It probably is just going to be a little unconventional and probably not from the side that you expect it from. I'm really high on Judas. I think she's going to be fantastic. I love the knockout from Yunesi Dubin. Now it's just a matter of, can the Venezuelan fighter prove that she is the person that she's trying to convince people that she is? We'll find out. That's why you tune into this sleeper first fight of the night, folks. I thought that was a good one, AJ. I thought that was a pretty good sleeper right there. So to conclude this section, brother, because we're actually doing pretty good on time, but we're running a little short, mailbag time. Most important questions. And AJ, the first question that we have here today is actually going to be doing a little recap of last week's main event. So folks, remember, if you want your question featured on the program, go ahead and drop a comment here on the YouTube channel, shoot us a message on Instagram or whatever the case may be, and you might just get it featured. All right, AJ, I actually don't know how to pronounce this username, but I'm going to try my best. It's Y Groot Diaz, and if I butchered that, apologies. All right, the best fighting the best is a selling point for the UFC. Shouldn't let champs get shouldn't let champs get freebie defenses against the likes of Khalil, Cheeto, Miocic in favorable stylistic fights. Pereira doesn't die because he couldn't beat Ankalaev. He can continue displaying his skill against lesser boxers than Ank. Show moves on. I'd love to see Ulberg versus Pereira if the former gets past Jan Blachowicz right here. So this is more of a comment than anything else, but it's ultimately saying, like, at the end of the day, everyone is tripping because Ankalaev won, and oh my God, UFC is so boring now, and I can't watch it. You just got a bunch of Russians, a bunch of Eastern European dudes running it. This is an unwatchable product. When the reality is, if the entire ethos of the selling point of the UFC was best fight the best, it doesn't matter who's the champion. Clearly, that person is the best. So give me your commentary on this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Derick. I mean, there was a comment I was talking about it on the water cooler the other day where it said, I had a guy saying Pereira just didn't show up. Like, he wasn't able to get doing what he had. And it's a boring fight because all Ankalaev did was pressure wrestle. Well, stop him. Stop him. What are we talking about? You know, if you're able to get it going, get it going. Like that's one of those things. Yes. Is it by the masses considered a more boring fight? Maybe. But I always leave the comment, if you can do better, go in there and prove it against a wrestler. I guarantee you, a lot of the people that think, oh, this is a boring fight, have never felt the pressure and the dominance of actually getting wrestled up and slammed on your head. That's what can happen, and especially if you're not as good of a fighter as Pereira, yeah, that would have happened if Ankalaev gets his hands on anybody else. I mean, I'm excited to see striker versus striker matchups. Yeah, I'm also excited to see grappler versus grappler matchups, but I do think at the end of the day, the best has to fight the best, and that's what the UFC is about, and if you don't like it, don't tune in, don't buy the pay-per-view, but we're still going to be winning money on it.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. I don't even got any response for that one. So, what my man said, that was a good one right there. All right, big roofie fan. Roman Dolidze versus Marvin Vettori 2 may just be the single most who asked for this fight I have ever seen in my life. AJ, I opened us up with that. I feel the same. I thought we were going to have 700 plus fighters on the roster. I guess you got to give these dudes so many fights per year, whatever. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, he's right. He's right. There's a reason there's no question mark at the end of it. This is an absolute statement and very true. I mean, we'll see because I'm with you, Derick. There's 700 fighters on the card, but how many of them are actually known? How many of these people want to be seen fighting or have eyes clamoring to watch them fight? There are people who want to see this one go down. It may not be the majority, but I do think it goes back to what we were talking about before. This is a time for both of these fighters, Dolidze and Vettori, to show that they are the people's fighter, the fighter that people want to see fighting most.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one thing people don't think about this is that they're both international audiences. Like, they have that audience capture. People in Italy will stay up to watch a Marvin Vettori main event. People in Georgia will stay up to watch a Roman Dolidze main event. That's probably, like, partially what's driving this. It's about numbers at the end of the day. So, take it for what it's worth. All right, man, last one. Rexo Zark. I like this one, actually, AJ. You're going to like this one, too. Or maybe you will. Reminder, Eunice Dubin is 6-0 with every win by knockout. Where's the hype? She had one of the biggest upsets of the year on the Contender Series last year. And I agree. But there is no hype. And the reason there is no hype, AJ, I'll tell you exactly, it's because just because you get a knockout, does that mean you're the better fighter? I think that's what we're seeing in this one. Prove to us that you are the 6-0 fighter who deserved the shot, who should be a favorite in your UFC debut. She has a real technical challenge in Carly Judas on her hands. Folks, if you skipped the sleepers for whatever reason, you just came to the mailbag, go back to the sleepers. We broke it down. But that is my thoughts on this one. Anything else on this one, AJ?
Yeah, no, you said it best, Derick. Go back to the sleepers and see why this fight's actually being made up. Derick does a great job. And yeah, I mean, this is the time for Dubin to prove if she deserves the hype, and then she'll actually get some going forward. Knockouts speak money, but only if you can keep repeating them and not fall into the lackadaisical trap we've seen a lot of the middle of the pack fall into.
You could get some knockouts consistently at 125 pounds in the women's division, you're going to be a star, bro. It's as simple as that. All right, folks, I think that's a great place to end. AJ, that's the program?
Yes, sir. Let's go win some money this weekend, folks.